paper is about measuring long-term inequality and is approaching to this issue with equality of opportunity point of view. And these Aber and Mogstad are two economists from Norway, and Peragine is an Italian economist. The main point for this framework is to evaluate inequality from a long-term point of view. So we use permanent income as the major variable in this context. And evaluation starts from an intuition that Friedman had in 1962, so that to measure properly inequality, we should use longer-term incomes into account. Then, as I said before, we use equality of opportunity as the guideline principle for this framework, and this will lead us to a conclusion that makes us understand if inequality of outcomes is mostly due to circumstances. And this paper will conclude that yes. Then we have both two kind of approaches. We have an ex-ante and an ex-post approach. So we take into account uncertainty because we have inequality. We have income measure that is just expected in the ex-ante approach. Then we have the actual measure in the ex-post approach. This was just to give you an idea. The structure of my presentation for the rest is to relate this paper into the general context of the literature. Then we explain the principle of equality of opportunity approach, and we set up the empirical analysis. So I'll give you some formulas, and then the panel data we use for the empirical analysis. The results are mainly led by these two diagrams, the Gini inequality diagram and welfare function diagram, and of course the conclusions. So the debate is should we use long-term or short-term income for measuring inequality? And the authors say that structurally it's best to use the long-term for policy perspective reasons, since it highlights if inequality of opportunity may accumulate over time, and because from empirical evidence we have that annual income fluctuates, and so the permanent income may just average out all these shocks and transitions in the short-term measure. And the other question is, should we use the equality of opportunity principle or the most traditional equality of outcome? And after some famous framework, we started, like, there was a huge debate about whether to start thinking also about circumstances and efforts, like variables that affect inequality. And this is the case of this paper. They use circumstances and efforts as the two variables that can arise, that can generate income inequality. Circumstances are out of individual's responsibility. Efforts, of course, is like identical, is equivalent to individual responsibility, and it is ethically acceptable that we have differences due to effort, and it's not that we have differences in outcome due to differences in circumstances. So the two approaches that this paper has are the ex-ante and ex-post. So in the ex-ante, we start from individuals with the same level of circumstances, and there is inequality if there is different expected permanent income. Then in the ex post, that is the most important in this framework because it actually shows where the different of circumstances are. In the ex post, in fact, we start with the same level of effort. So we partition the population into so-called tranches. So because people exert the same effort, in the other case, we partition population in types, and yeah, this is like to show you the difference. This dot is, yeah, they used really lots of maths to end up with these two measures of inequality, but actually it's just the basic idea is that they start with Lorentz cars, so they make some axioms to make Lorentz cars rankable, so they rank Lorentz cars, and from the ranking of Lorentz cars they could rank also the incomes, and thanks to this they divided the population into quantiles, and each quantile is a tranche, so the same level of effort within it. So individuals share the same level of effort. And in this case, we see, the two measures are the ex post and ex ante, and we have this is the summation of the portions of the shares of quantiles Q of S. Means this P is just a weighting function that is non-increasing, and F, this is important because it's the ordered distribution function of income, actually the inverse. And this is the way they proceeded. So they had the inverse of the cumulative distribution function of the incomes, and then they ordered them. So for each quantile, for example, the first line remains the same. The second, we have the ordering. Okay. And the Gini version of these indexes are just drawn from these formulas by setting the weighting function in this way. And the main diagrams I'm going to show you are based on this, on this index. The welfare function also is important because it shows whether the society is well off or is better off or worse off. The panel data is this one, so actually cut off some data, but the most important part is the mean income. And the fact that they used circumstances in a restricted way, so they just looked at family background of these individuals born in the 42 or 43 or 44, and so in the period considered, they started working when they were 25 more or less, and ending with 64. So the working lifespan is taken into account. We have three variables that indicate if they come from a city, they come from a large family, and the parental background, the parental education. We distinguish between three levels of this variable. Okay, so here we are with the results, and this is actually there are these 4 lines, but we have the period specific. So we distinguish between 4 types: the short-term income, long-term income, and if it is based on the equality of outcome approach or the equality of opportunity approach. So the two are the upper two are about the equality of outcome, and the lower two are about the equality of opportunity. Let's start with the first two. So actually, we see that Gini index is quite low at the beginning. So during the 70s, we have almost constant in both the short-term analysis and the long-term analysis. While by the end of the period considered, we have much higher levels of inequality for the short-term analysis. And yeah, I started. For the other two lines, we say, as you can see, the two trends are almost similar, but what's the difference? The level. So we have much lower level if we consider the economic opportunity approach. So the account, so these levels are about 28% of the previous levels. So if we consider the permanent, we have like 28% of difference. I mean, this is 28% of this line. If we consider instead the short term, so let's say the smooth cars, we have about 23 or 26% of account. So this will drive to the first main conclusion of this paper. So we just have a look at the welfare functions. And of course, the trend is quite the opposite of the previous graph, but there are some differences. For example, in the 90s, where there is still a growth in welfare, despite the inequality increases, because we have a mean income that is growing because of economic boom. Then this is another important conclusion. Of course, we see that the ex post and the ex ante have quite the same trend, but one is the ex ante is lower than the ex post till the 25th year of the career of the individuals. Then the ex ante goes up, and this may lead to a conclusion of that the distance between social groups becomes increasingly important in the last part of the working span. So when we are here in the last 15 years, because the ex post measures the difference in circumstances. And here I am with the conclusions, maybe a bit, I'm sure, shorter. So that the equality of opportunity measures account for less than 1/3 than the corresponding equality of outcome measures. And this could mean that a large fraction of inequality is due to inequal circumstances. And well, we see the snapshot of income, here. Snapshots are period specific. So, snapshot of income or say inequality compared to analysis based on permanent income. And this could mean income mobility. So social groups are not people within the same social group is not within, people in one social group is not in the same social group the year after, and etc. So there are many transitory effects within one's lifetime income measure. And we have similarity between the ex-ante and ex-post measures, except the differences I told you before. And that's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?